Picture this. It's 1968. The Cold War is at its absolute peak, and the entire world is a giant chessboard for two superpowers. But our story? It doesn't start in some smoky room in Washington or Moscow. Nope. It begins in the dark, cold, unforgiving abyss of the Pacific Ocean, more than 3 miles down, where a secret was just waiting to be stolen. And that right there, that's the razor's edge this whole thing was balanced on. Before we even get into the crazy technology or what they were after, this declassified CIA memo tells you everything you need to know about the stakes. This wasn't just a recovery mission. It was a massive gamble that could have very, very easily kicked off World War III. So you have to ask, what could possibly be so valuable that the CIA was willing to risk all-out war? Well, the answer starts with a ghost. A lost Soviet submarine absolutely packed with intelligence that could change the entire game of the Cold War. So the sub, the K-129, it just disappeared while on patrol. The Soviet Navy searched for 2 solid months, found nothing, and eventually just declared it lost to the sea. But here's the thing. The US knew something the Soviets didn't. See, they had this underwater listening network, and it actually heard the sub go down. They knew exactly where it was, about 1,500 miles northwest of Hawaii. And what was inside that silent steel hull? Oh man, it was an intelligence jackpot. You're talking nuclear missiles, advanced torpedoes, but the real prize, the Holy Grail, were the top secret Soviet codebooks, the keys to their entire secret communication network. It was a prize the CIA felt they had to go for, sitting there at the bottom of the ocean, 16,500 feet down. All right, so you found this incredible prize. How in the world do you get it back? Well, it would take a plan so completely audacious, so technologically insane, it really felt more like science fiction than reality. The mission was officially born with the codename Project Azorian. You've got 2 massive problems here, right? On one side, you have the mechanical nightmare. I mean, nobody had ever lifted something this heavy from this deep before, ever. The engineers gave it like a 10% chance of success at first. Then, on the other side, you have the geopolitical nightmare. You're literally trying to steal a warship from your biggest rival. If you get caught, it's not just embarrassing. It could be a global catastrophe. To really wrap your head around just how difficult this was, listen to this analogy from one of the CIA engineers on the project. It's perfect. It's not just about the incredible precision needed to lift something from 3 miles away. It's about doing it all in total secrecy. This wasn't just a lift. It was a heist. So how do you pull off the deepest, most secret heist in history, right out in the open ocean? Well, you start by building the world's most sophisticated and expensive stage prop, and you get a famously eccentric billionaire to be your frontman. And this was it, the Hughes Glomar Explorer. To anyone looking, it seemed to be a groundbreaking ship for deep-sea mining, but in reality, it was a 618-foot-long, custom-built machine designed for one thing and one thing only, to steal a submarine. Now, how do you explain a ship like this to the world? The CIA's cover story was nothing short of genius. They said it was a commercial project to mine these things called manganese nodules from the ocean floor, and that it was being paid for by Howard Hughes. And, his reputation for being secretive and funding these crazy, grand projects made the whole unbelievable story kind of believable. It was actually so convincing it kicked off a real-world rush of interest in deep-sea mining. And this schematic shows you the ship's real secret. It had this huge hole in the bottom called a moon pool. This giant well could open up, letting the ship literally swallow the submarine from below, then close back up, hiding the entire salvage operation from any spy satellites or Soviet planes flying overhead. And to do the actual grabbing, they built this incredible thing. A giant capture vehicle officially named Clementine, but everyone just called it the Claw. It was built in complete secrecy inside a submersible barge. Then, out off the coast of California, the barge sank itself so it could secretly transfer the Claw up into the Glomar Explorer's moon pool, completely hidden from view. Okay, so the ship is built, the cover story is holding, everything is in place. It was time. In the summer of 1974, the Glomar Explorer sailed out to the recovery site to try and pull off the impossible. The heist was on. And this timeline just shows you how incredibly tense this whole thing got. They get on site, and just a couple of weeks later, wouldn't you know it, a Soviet monitoring ship shows up to see what they're doing. They're being watched, every single move. And yet, right under the noses of the Soviets, They lower the claw 3 miles down, and on August 1st, they start to pull. Let's just pause on this number for a second. 16,500 feet. That is over 3 miles, straight down into total blackness. The pressure is something like 8,000 pounds per square inch. This was the arena. This is where this whole multi-million-dollar, world-risking project was going to succeed or fail. The lift itself was just agonizingly slow. For days, this huge hydraulic system pulled the sub up piece by piece, adding and removing these massive 60-foot pipe sections one at a time. They actually got it up over 9,000 feet. They were almost halfway there. Success felt like it was right there, within their grasp. And then the crew felt a jolt. One of them described it as a small earthquake. Something had gone horribly, horribly wrong. After all those years of planning, hundreds of millions of dollars, and risking a war, just like that, catastrophic failure. It turned out that some of the metal tines on the claw had just snapped under the immense strain. And the biggest part of the submarine, the part they wanted most with the missile silos and, crucially, the code books, it just ripped away and tumbled back down into the abyss, lost forever. All they were left with was a small 38-foot section from the front. So the mission was, for the most part, a failure. But the story of Project Azorian, oh, it was far from over. In a really strange twist, the failure of this incredible heist would give birth to a legacy of secrecy that is still very much with us today. You see, the secret didn't get out because of a brilliant Soviet spy. It got out because of a simple burglary. In 1975, some thieves broke into Howard Hughes' offices and stole a bunch of documents, some of which connected him to the Glomar explorer and the CIA. Those documents eventually found their way to the press, and the Los Angeles Times just blew the lid off the entire story. Once the story was out, journalists started hitting the CIA with Freedom of Information Act requests, demanding they release all their files on the project. Now, the agency was in a really tough spot. If they admitted they had the files, they'd be confirming the secret mission. But if they denied having the files, they'd be lying. So they invented a third option. And this, right here, is the CIA's solution. It's a masterpiece of legal defense that would become known as the Glomar response. It basically allowed the agency to protect its secrets even when a story was already out in public. And since then, it's become a standard go-to for government agencies trying to keep their most sensitive operations under wraps. Project Azorian was just an absolutely incredible feat of engineering and an intelligence gamble on an epic scale. And while it didn't bring home the ultimate prize, it pushed the absolute limits of technology and created this lasting legacy in government secrecy. And it leaves us all with one final, haunting question. What other secrets from that massive Cold War struggle are still down there, waiting in the crushing, silent darkness of the ocean floor?